Gems, gents, hey, happy Wednesday
We are back.
with another episode of the Hustle and Shine podcast. We're gonna wait for y'all to get in here. I'm sitting here, look, I'm sitting here moving my light around with my leg. Like, that's crazy. I can't get the light right. Mel has alerted me that my screen keeps freezing and my sound is going in and out. I am in Georgia, as many of you know. We are experiencing like wind and threat of rain, so that could be playing a part in my internet. They're also upgrading this area, the whatever this new thing that AT&T is doing. Um, and so that could be it as well. I don't know, but if it ruins the show, my apologies. I will do my best to contribute tonight without being disruptive, but
You
I
see, the
cannot
funny thing, you
control it.
seem to be coming in perfectly fine now. It's not in the echo
Nice.
now. So let's
Yay.
stay
Awesome.
there.
Awesome. Yes, thank you, God. But again, welcome to another episode of the Hustle and Shine podcast. We are so glad that you have chosen to be with us on this Wednesday night. We know that on Wednesdays we wear diamonds, and tonight is no different. We do have a great show prepared for you. We think it aligns with the current political climate, as well as Women's History Month. And so we are excited to kind of delve in and dive in into the things that we prepare for discussion. But before we do, we have to send love to the Phoenix, who is mourning loss right now. We won't tell her business. We'll allow her to tell all of you in our community when she returns. But we are certainly sending prayers and love and comfort to her and her family as they grieve their loss. We do ask that if you reach out with love, reach out with your prayers, but give her space to really grieve and process what she and her family are carrying right now. Um, Her absence is certainly felt, but we are proponents of self care. And sometimes when we try to move too quickly beyond a loss, we actually revert. And so we want her to take her time and do all the things that she needs to do for her heart and her nervous system. So, Mel, what has been going on? How was your week so far? And how was last week?
My week has been a week. I'm like, it's only Wednesday, but it's been a week.
Yeah.
It started off pretty rocky. Like my weekend into the beginning part of my week was a lot. I was
Yeah.
just dealing with a lot. So I was kind of checked out a little bit.
Mm,
Um,
been
but
there.
determined not to let it defeat me. So I'm trying to check back in a
Yeah. Yeah.
little bit. But yeah, I don't know. 2025 just got all kind of stuff out of whack. I don't know if Saturn is in retrograde. I don't I don't know what's happening.
Not Saturn. You just skipped Mercury, went right to
Mer-
Saturn. Okay.
I don't know nothing.
Okay.
I don't follow astrology. I didn't know which planet it was. Are they all still
Yeah.
planets? I don't know. Every year I feel
It's
like we add a planet, we lose a planet. I don't know. But
yeah.
whatever it is, it's not in alignment, is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
It's out of whack. I need it to come back together. I
Yeah.
blame it.
Right.
I blame it on our little Cheetos, our little Cheeto toupee wearing individual. I blame it on everything. I'm blaming it on him. You've upset the universe, and now everybody's struggling. People's emotions and psyches and stuff is all over the place. It's all his
Yeah.
fault.
Yeah. You can tell um people are losing it, and I see it. Like, people are unraveling, and
Yeah.
it's sad. Like, this was my first official week back on social media, and so I was intentional to go into my feed on Instagram. I still haven't returned to Facebook, but I did return to Instagram, and I kind of just unfollowed like a couple of thousand people
Not
and
a couple
started
thousand.
following a new set of thousand people, right? Because I want to switch up my algorithms. I want my feed to show me things of interest. And so like I unfollowed a ton of celebrities. I unfollowed like a bunch of like travel influencers and all those type of people, and just started following like politicians, representatives, social activists, like, because that's just where my head is. um I followed a lot of these, not that I was following many of them, but the few that I was following, before recognizing that they are indeed false teachers and false prophets, I unfollowed them, because I'm just really trying to align myself
Yeah.
sound doctrine and political advancement, right? The folks that are working toward that. And so it was interesting because I could see the shift happening about algorithm. And pretty much everyone who's speaking against Amaya, and I call him Thanos, everyone who is speaking against Thanos is like losing it. Like they are unraveling. And I can see the pressure of not knowing because it's only been 2 months into his administration and he's already turned the world upside down, not just the US, but the world is being impacted. um and I'm like, you know what, I'm grateful to be on the side of those who have hope. Like I'm really grateful, but my heart hurts for those who don't, who are used to their dependency on, politicians, on government, on federal funding. They're losing it. We're really in the fight for our minds, and it's so clear. Like it's so freaking clear right now. Yeah.
First of all, I'm internally right now, I'm dying at Thanos. Like that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That yes.
So we're big Marvel girls, like me and Amaya and Araya, my oldest. We love Marvel. Like we can watch Marvel every weekend and never get tired of it. But the reason I encourage my girls to refer to him as Thanos is because his followers are very cult minded. And many of them will inflict harm if you present a point of view that conflicts with their own. I think sometimes people who follow him, it's a personal attachment, and so I just don't want nobody trying to hurt my babies. And so yeah, I told them when you're in mixed company, call him Thanos, so no one knows. Because they had the same objective, right? World domination. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I see my internet messing up. Dang it, I see it. It's actually showing me that my internet's tripping.
It's being a hater.
That sucks. See, you talk about Thanos and Elon comes to the rescue with internet disruption. That sucks.
Get out of here. You are not welcome.
At all.
I see Phoenix is in the comments.
I just saw that. Hey Tiff.
Sending you all the love.
All the love.
My heart was deformed earlier. All the love.
Girl, I never get it right. I'm always remedial in my heart formation. Like it never works out for me. It never works out. But to your point about feeling detached and all over the place, actually, Mel, that may be a good thing. You are a driver. And what I mean by driver, I'm meaning like personal drive and ambition. And sometimes we have to slow down and we just don't. And so I look at it as a good thing that you're kind of like detached. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. It was just a lot. I mean, I think it was yesterday. People were calling me, and since I answered the phone, they was like, "Whoa, what's wrong with you? You okay?" I was like, "Listen, I know my energy is off today." I was like, "Today is not the day to do too much."
Yeah.
Because I was talking to one of my clients, and they were stressing me. I was like, "Listen, I need you to understand. Today is the day that I'll quit. Like today's that day. Like today's the day where I'll be like, you know what? I don't do it anymore. I quit."
Yeah.
So I was like, just leave me. Just today, just leave me be, because I have zero thread left on this string today. Like it'll all be gone today. Like everybody be gone.
Right.
But how are you?
You know what? I'm really good. I'm actually really, really good. I'm in a really good space. I have thoroughly enjoyed my downtime, my involuntary downtime. I have enjoyed it so much. And I just see how God is working. Like it's amazing to like pray for something. And then when you sit back and really pay attention, you're like, oh shoot, this was God's design. This was not circumstance. This was not political. This was not an attack on DE&I. This was God. Like, not that God disrupted diversity, equity, inclusion for me, but I'm just saying, scripture says all things work together for our good. Like, I feel like despite the challenges we're facing in this country, God has made sure that his plan is at work for me. And so it feels so good. I was able to finish 3 books in 6 weeks. So I am like overly excited. I received the completed manuscript for one of the 3 today, and I ran around my house. I was like, Lord, you are just like, no, I really did take a victory lap around
I
my
believe it.
house, around the house, the interior of the house, because I have been working on this one in particular for 2 years. And so to see it and hold it and like the tangible evidence of hard work and dedication and purpose is like, man, y'all could not convince me to disobey God. I mean, I'm sure I mess up. I do. I am a sinner. I'm raggedy. I'm filthy. You know what I'm saying? Like I am. But intentionality in messing up this thing that me and him got ain't happening. Ain't a person alive. Y'all better try me not. So yes, I've been in a really good place, enjoying my mommy time, volunteering at baby girl school, getting all the way involved in stuff, and just reimagining my next chapter. Like, what does the next phase of my life look like? And it's so freaking exciting. So that's just been it for me. Like, that's it. Like, trying to get involved in politics. We talked about that last week. Y'all know I've been attending subcommittee meetings for the Democrats. I ain't really got a lot of fans in the room, but that's okay. But it's still been good.
They be like, They be like, don't let her in this week. Don't let her in. We don't got it.
They like, don't give her the floor. Don't give her the floor. So we gave you all some time to catch up and get in the room. We so appreciate you. We see you in the comments. Bernadette, thank you so much for being here. Good evening to you. We see you, Tiara. Hey, sweet. Good evening. And yes, girl, God is so good. Put some extra O's on that. So, honey, he is so good. Bernadette, thank you for tagging. Is that Corrine, Vicky, and Deborah? Come on, ladies, get in here. Get in here. Get in here. We think you would love tonight's discussion. To my diamonds who are in the room, tag your diamond sisters. Go ahead and tell them to get in here. Yeah. And then, of course, anyone else that you can think of that you think would benefit from our discussion on the power of storytelling. That is what we're talking about tonight. Those of you who are writers, aspiring authors, I think you would really benefit from this discussion that Mel and I have prepared. So make sure that you go tell a friend to tell a gem to get in here. Or if you miss it tonight, of course, the replay will be available on Facebook and YouTube. All right, Mel. So I failed. I forgot to create the banner for the title of tonight. I got all the other ones in here. Totally forgot that one. Just okay.
That's all right. Mind. The power.
Girl, I'm on allergy meds. And for allergy sufferers, listen. Allergy season came through with the come through. They was like, and we're here. And so, yeah, it's been a rough.
Let's not talk about it because I opened StreamYard to create the episode.
Yeah. And
in the midst of creating episode, 60,000 things happened. And then by the time I got back to finish it, you had did it. And I was like, see, all right, great. Because I was like, I opened it with the intent of creating this episode.
Yes.
And listen. Wednesday was Wednesdaying. Today.
It was.
I had my first meeting this morning at 10 a.m. And I was in meetings nonstop from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. And then I thought I was going to be like, ooh, I get a break. And then 4 p.m. hit. And then I had like 15 text messages I needed to respond to. And then I was responding to those. And then while I was responding to those, people were calling me. And so I literally stopped working when I logged in.
Yeah. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Today was the day.
Yeah. It was Wednesday, and like you said, but
yeah.
I'm still excited about the topic. I've been on chill mode, so it was nothing for me to create the show. That's usually what Phoenix does for us, but I was happy to do it in her absence. Because again, I got the time, honey. I'm over here on chill mode. Like, I enjoyed my Wednesday. I went to the gym. I ran some errands. And look, real quick, right? So I'm at the bank, right? I had to go to the bank, pull out some cash. So I'm at the bank, and the lady's like, I need to see your ID. Now, usually, if you insert your card, it just pulls up your account. But because of the amount I was deducted, she was like, unfortunately, I got to look at ID. You're taking out loud. I was like, no problem. So I gave her my ID, and she was like, ma'am, no offense, but is this really you? I said, yes, ma'am. That's not a fake ID. And I said, oh, that was 35 pounds ago. Like, and she said, she was like, I really think you should update your driver's license because this, like, it looks like you, but it doesn't look like
Yeah,
you. Girl, I walked out of there with
you was
extra pep in
beaming.
my step. Okay.
Listen,
In
you know
addition
I've
to
been
the
there.
cash, I walked out of there with the sparkle like, hey, I don't even look like my old self. Like, it felt so good.
Listen,
So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go ahead and hop over to the DMV and take care of
I
that.
you
Right.
know I've been there, and
Yeah.
that's so funny because that happened to me when I was flying. I was in the airport, and the TSA dude was like, and he just kind of looked, he handed it back like, I'm gonna just let you slide with this, but I don't like. It was that look like I don't believe this, but all right, go ahead.
Right.
And so yeah, it was like that one was. I understand. It's funny when you don't when you like we don't ID pictures are not something you update often. So
Right.
as you transition, they like
Yeah.
who that? I'm like that.
Right. That's me, I promise. And I was like, I still got more to lose, but it just felt so good when she was like, you should so get a new ID. I was like, and I should. And I should, and I will. All right. We've had enough small talk. We're going to jump right in. We're going to dive right in. Listen, we want you in the comments. We want you to engage with us, ask your questions, drop your comments. We're going to do a lot better at engaging because we feel like this topic is for all of us. We really believe as writers, or whether you're a professional writer or not, whether you're a published author or not, we still have a responsibility to tell our stories. And Mel and I are going to explain a little bit why it's not just an option, but a responsibility. And so we got three topics, as always. We got, we work in that triune. We love working in that. And so first we're going to tackle our historical tapestry. We're going to talk about how storytelling is threaded, and it has been a staple in our community and in our culture and in our families. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Then we're going to talk about the power of written word. Diamonds, where y'all at? Drop diamonds in the comments. Y'all know that is what we do. Written word is our superpower. So we're going to talk about that. And then finally, we're going to close up the conversation, or in the conversation, with strategies for your expression. Like, how can you express yourself? Maybe, writing is not your favorite form of storytelling, but there are so many other ways to tell your story. And so we're going to provide some insights and some influence on how you can do that. All right. So, Mel, let's jump right in. Let's talk about historical tapestry. Let's talk about our oral traditions. I want to talk about our community memory. Like, let's dive into all of that.
Yeah.
I'll let you kick that off.
So I think in the world period, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So much of what we know of times before ours came from somebody either documenting or sharing the story and passing it down.
Yeah.
Especially within the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
The only way we had to keep track of our history was to share our stories, and we couldn't
Yeah.
write it down. You had to,
Right.
share it with your mother. The grandmama shared it with mama, and then mama had to remember and share with, and it had to go down
Yep.
because we didn't have a way to keep track of our history or our lineage, or to know where we came from.
Right.
And unfortunately, unlike many other cultures, most of us don't know anything beyond our US or Caribbean roots.
Right.
We don't know anything beyond that.
Right.
And obviously that's because that was stripped from us.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to know even the slightest far back, so even being able to know to your slavery or post slavery ancestry,
Mm-hmm.
I found that there are so many African Americans that don't know
Right.
even that, like they don't know where their great grandmother was born,
Right.
or where she was from, or they don't know. It's a
Right.
very surface, first generation, maybe second generation, and that's it.
Yeah.
Um, And so that's where this historical tapestry comes in, is really understanding and looking at the only way, they say the only way to know where you're going is to understand where you came from.
Right. Agreed.
And understanding, the stock that you come from, you know, um, the lineage, your history. I've heard stories of people who have found out that they've come from lineages of kings and queens and had no idea.
Yeah.
And I think knowing that can sometimes and ultimately can shift your view of self.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Understanding the blood that runs through your veins.
Yeah.
But then also understanding the story of your people, your family. What have we done? What have we done? What works have we done? How have we contributed,
Right.
to the world as a whole? And that being able to know that, one, instills a different level of pride
Mm-hmm.
and posture
Mm-hmm.
within yourself.
Yep.
um but then it is now our job, once you learn this information, to continue to share the information.
Yep.
um I feel like that historical tapestry that was so embedded back then
Mm-hmm.
has been lost in a
Yep.
sense.
Agreed.
We've become very singular in nature. So we don't disclose and discuss what we've been through, what we're going through, what's happening. And so we don't give our next generation the tools
Mm-hmm.
to be able to adequately move, through life. And that's
Yep.
definitely, I feel like, a very lost art, or
Heck
a lost piece of that ability to tell a story, in such a way
yeah. Mm-hmm.
that it would seem as if you were there
Right. Right.
and you weren't,
Right.
and like
Mm-hmm.
when you see remakes of movies from those times, regardless of culture or race, there was that, like, you can, and a lot of times you see a lot of those movies where it's being told in retrospect from a grandchild or someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if you don't know that right up front and you're listening to them tell it, you would think that they were the person that was going through this. And then you find out, halfway through the movie or whatever, that they're talking about what their grandmother or great grandmother or somebody else went through.
Exactly.
And that's amazing to be able to do,
Yeah.
to be able to carry your history with you.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, I think you said so many things that are just so on point. But I think what resonates with me most in some of your points is the fact that there's only a single story. America has one narrative for Black people, one.
One.
And
Mm-hmm.
even that, they are now trying to remove from history books. They're trying to equate, or they're trying to justify or diminish
Yeah.
the tragedy and the trauma that slavery really was. Um, but like you said, when you think about the landscape of Black culture and you think about the formation of Black culture, because we were the only people in the US that didn't truly have identity, right? The identity we knew was stolen when we were taken, right?
Yep.
And so the conformity that was forced on us, having to conform, having to be complicit, having to learn new languages, having to learn new culture, it left us kind of like in limbo, like who are we for real? And
Mm-hmm.
so when Black people really did start to redefine themselves, again, we were removed and not included in our history books. We weren't, our narratives were not told. Half of the inventions we don't even have credit for. And the reason we are starting to hear about some of our inventions and our contribution to greatness is because those families are speaking up. Those families whose ancestors are responsible for something, innovating something, inventing something, they are the ones now speaking up. Social media has connected the world in a way that we didn't have before. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like you said, I absolutely love that we are not only owning our narratives, but we are telling stories that many of us never heard before. And here's what's amazing about it: it's not just enlightening Black people,
Yep.
It's exposing the lie of white America. And that, I think, is my favorite part. There's nothing more rewarding than for a white person to realize they've been lied to just as much as we have about who we are.
And about who they are.
And about who they are. Exactly. And so, as you said, like, I think it's our responsibility to tell our stories. I was talking to my grandmother. My grandmother turned 86 last weekend. So I drove to visit with her, and it was so worth the drive. And she was telling me how when she was only 16 years old, she was a maid for a Jewish family in New York at the age of 16. And all that she was exposed to and all that she saw, all that she learned about them, about their culture, and how they viewed us. Now, mind you, there were parts in history where Jews were oppressed. And now we were the ones oppressed, and yet there was no empathy or no grace for her. And she said that blew her mind. How you were once an oppressed people, so you would think that there was some type of empathy and some type of understanding that would make you less of a no. And so just hearing that from her vantage point and from her own experience, it just blew my mind. It really did blow my mind. But anyway, I wanted to share a couple of notes and some of the study that I did on historical tapestry, because obviously we're at the half hour and I do want to get the other two subtopics in. The storytelling was a vital tool for preserving history, for transmitting knowledge, and maintaining cultural continuity. Our ancestors, grandparents, great grandparents, great great grandparents were keepers of community memory. A lot of what we faced in real time and the sensory, the way that they were able to remember stories based on how they felt, what they smelled, what they saw, what they, you know what I'm saying, what they remember, it allows those memories to live through generations. Our stories and our traditions survive the transatlantic slave trade. It adapted and evolved in the face of brutal oppression. Like I said, one of the things I was talking to my grandmother about was her experiences with Jim Crow, her experiences, you know, with blatant racism, like all the things that she experienced. It's like we hear about it and we talk about what we wouldn't have tolerated and what we wouldn't have done. But her main focus was to survive, to get home, right? It was survival. And so when you think about that from a generational pattern, survival mode doesn't only show up in finances, it shows up in how we respond to trauma and how we respond, you know, to danger and things like that. And so it gave me so much perspective. And the last thing I wanted to say about our historical tapestry is that storytelling is indeed our responsibility. I've said that twice already, because it maintains the integrity of our experiences. When someone else gets to tell our story, they get to control the narrative, they get to control the vantage point, they get to control the perspective, and they get to control the truth. Whether they omit it, whether they embellish it, whether they smear it, whatever it is, when they get to tell our story, it is not always going to be true. And we see that right now in this country, right? We're seeing it all the time. I was reading an article on LinkedIn, and I'm going to just share it real quick in case y'all want to go look for it. But it was saying how, because you know I'm going to have an article. It will never be an episode that Natima does not offer an article. Okay? Y'all know better. But anyway, I was reading this article and it was talking about how Arlington National Cemetery scrubs website of noble graves of Black female veterans in the diversity.
I saw that.
It's freaking annoying. It's really annoying how organizations, institutions, they feel the necessity to be so extreme in their support of diversity, the war on diversity, equity, inclusion, that you are trying to remove the names of significant women. And this is why it's important for the family members of those women to now record the story. Don't just tell the story of what they contributed to that got their names on the website in the first place, but now tell the story of how it was removed because of the current time we live in. I was telling my daughter as I was preparing for the show, the reason why I love journaling, because I was reading journal entries from September 11th and what that experience was like for me living in New York and having to walk across the 59th Street Bridge to get out of Manhattan and into Queens safely. I wrote about the blackout of 2001. that
Mhm.
major blackout when all the grids in Canada went out. So New York had no power, not just our local city, the entire state of New York out.
Yeah, power.
Black,
Yep, I
okay?
remember that.
All the crime that was happening, all like it was such an unsafe time. I wrote about COVID, what my experiences were being, in that pandemic for those 2 years on complete lockdown. No social interaction, no external social engagement, and what that did to me in terms of my psyche and my nervous system. I
Mhm.
wrote about what divorce was like. I wrote like so there's so much that our stories do for others and for ourselves. And so we
Mhm.
want to make sure that we're keeping the historical tapestry growing, keep weaving, keep
Yeah.
adding to that because it's critical. All right, go ahead, Mel. Anything you want to contribute before we move on to the power of written word?
No, just hearing you talk about your conversation with your grandmother, it makes me think about like my grandmother. Like my grandmother passed, but my grandmother lived to be 100. So
Amen.
imagine the
Oh, she's
stories.
seen.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I remember when we had her 100th birthday party,
Yeah.
and you hear stories like my grandmother. We would definitely, thankfully, we're in a family where we talked about stuff.
Mhm.
So like my grandmother, we would, hey grandma, what about this? And she would tell us stories about all the different jobs that she had and different things that she did and things she experienced. And she was very heavy in the civil rights movement and stuff like that. So we would hear, and she had stories about some celebrities that she worked for. We're not gonna talk about them, but um I remember hearing like about stories about like her where she was working during the war. And you kind of, as a kid, you hear stuff and you're just like, okay. You don't really internally process the the
Mhm.
the severity or the magnitude of what that means.
Yeah.
And I remember at her 100th birthday party, she got all these proclamations. I mean, like I was like, who are you? Like she had a proclamation from the president and then from somebody else. And then she got a plaque from this military base in New Jersey.
Mhm.
And two female, I think it was a captain and I don't know military rankings, but
Mhm.
whatever the top rankings is, it captain, sergeant, whatever the top ones are. Anyway,
Mhm.
they came to her
Mhm.
party to
Wow.
present her with this plaque.
Wow.
And in their speaking, they were saying because of what my grandmother did, and they've obviously in the military have heard the stories, but because of what she did and what she was a part of when she worked there, is why they're able to have the position that they have. I think they were like the first two
Wow.
female people in their position on that base. They
Wow.
were like the first two. And so my grandmother was um the first was one of the first women to work in a certain part of the military base, was the first woman to do this job.
Mhm.
And so, like I said, you hear it and you're like, but then to see people who don't know her
Mhm.
personally
Mhm.
show up and be like, well, we've heard about you. We've heard
Wow.
about your story. We heard about what you did. And
Mhm.
because of who you were and what you did is why we're able to be in the position that we're in. And
Wow.
so it's amazing how even outside of the storytelling amongst ourselves and our family, how
Mhm.
our stories travel outside of our circle and
Yep.
make impact.
Yep.
So, and that doesn't happen without us talking. It has to do with you talking to other people, sharing your story,
Exactly.
letting people know, because then it
Mhm.
travels and it gets
Right.
other people, and you have no idea the impact um,
Yeah.
that what you've done or what your family's done has actually had on someone else.
Mhm.
So yeah, it
That's
that
amazing. That
yeah.
is amazing. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so powerful, like you said, like just her living her life. We never know who's been impacted, who's been reached, by those around us. And something you said is so key. It triggered a thought about even with my recordings, the day that, Obama won the presidency, I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. And I remember waking up, they had finally gotten the results. And I remember, I forget who the anchor was or who the commentator was, but the line that he said to announce that Obama was the winner, I wrote that in a letter to my daughter. And mind you, she was still in my womb. But the line that he used to let us know who won, he said, for the first time in I think like 3 decades, there will be children in the White House. And I said, Obama won. That's going to be Maria and Sasha. And I wrote that line to my daughter. I said, for the first time, and I forgot how many decades, there are children in the White House, and they're little girls that look like you. And I remember writing that in my journal that night. And that's huge.
Yeah.
To be able to say, because we don't know if we'll ever see that again. We don't know if this country will ever.
We don't know if it'll be in the history books in a couple years.
Exactly. And so for me to be able to record that I got to witness the first elected Black president, I got to watch a woman run for the presidency. Now, other women have done it, right? We know Shirley Chisholm, but I wasn't here to witness that. I wasn't born yet, but I was born to see Kamala run for office. And it's just being able to journal those things and record those things and document those things for my girls, and hopefully they'll pass it down to their children and their children's children, is so critical, because that is technically our history.
Yeah,
that's our history, right?
Yeah.
That's the era that we've lived in. So we hope that you're enjoying this conversation. If you have a question or a comment, go ahead and drop it in the chat. We would love to engage with you. What are some ways that you are honoring your historical tapestry in your family, in your community? What are some stories that you grew up hearing about your relatives or your loved ones, or that one, crossing guard in your community? I said crossing guard to both my girls, and they were like, what is that? They were like, what's a crossing guard? And I'm like, well, growing up in Queens, you can't cross the street to the public schools by yourself. There was a designated aide that supported us in our safety, in our traffic safety, and like just little things like that. Like it preserves nostalgia. It preserves the era that I grew up in. Like that was normal. I like, real quick before we move on, I was reading one of my journal entries from 1996. Sour Patch Kids, how much they cost. I wrote, because I used to sell candy in IS 59. I used to sell candy. Like that was how I made my little money. But I was writing down the prices of my inventory. Girl, now latest was 5 cents. I was like, what?
Listen, I was there. Listen, we was talking about we ain't gonna get to the other topics. We're gonna move on. I mean, just history, like you said, we're talking about things. I remember years ago for Christmas, my little cousin, he's like super into video games. So my other cousin bought him a t-shirt, and it had like a Nintendo controller on it, and I forget what it said. And so he looked at the shirt, he was like, what's that? Like, and we were like, that's a video. He was like, so I want to say, I think at that time I had my Nintendo and I had my Sega Genesis still, and so he brought it out, and the looks on his face, like he's looking at the control, he's like, where's the rest of the buttons? He's like, why is this square? Like, what? He's just like, and like, we're talking about those things because they don't understand. Like, kids nowadays have no idea the struggles of trying to find a quarter for the payphone.
Oh my gosh. Oh my. Or like,
a token. I'm like, being able to just pick up the phone and call somebody whenever you want, wherever you want it, was
that part. That part. That part. They will, but again, like you said, recording that. Now, again, they do have all of these videos, right? There's so many reels watching children try to figure out old school technology and old school hardware and equipment, and that's great. But again, when you consider the powers that be, an unelected billionaire in particular, who's making $3 billion a day from federal. Okay, no, I'm not today.
That's not the story we're telling today.
Girl, okay, but real quick, when you think about our media arsenal, you think about our media portfolio, it scares me because I'm like, we can't rely solely on that because we don't know if that'll be erased. We don't know what will be archived and what will be completely deleted forever. And so I know a lot of people are like, yeah, but we have social media now, and we have all of these other, media outlets to store information. We can save pictures. But when you think about who controls the cloud and who controls data right now, that's the unelected billionaire. He controls all data. Okay. So we can't trust that that's going to still be here and a reliable resource for us to keep our stories going. And so that's why we want to talk about the power of written word, right? We want to talk about the power of written word. When you think about, I hate referring to slavery so much. When you think about slave times, and it was illegal for us to learn to read and write, and the unique ways that they found to communicate. I was watching, and this is fast forward. This was like Vietnam War. I was watching, what's her name, Amanda Seals, and she was explaining what the dap means. Like, what does it mean when two men dap each other up? This is something I never knew until she broke it down. I think she was on The View or The Table or one of them annoying daytime talk shows. But anyway, she was explaining how that was created during the Vietnam War for Black soldiers to be able to, one, connect, and it was a symbol. It was a symbol that said, "I have your back. I'm going to watch out for you. I'm going to make sure that you're safe," because there were white soldiers shooting Black soldiers. So not the enemy.
No, right.
On the same side, white soldiers were killing Black soldiers, and so the DAP was their way of saying, "I got your back. I'm here for you, bro. I'm watching you. I see you. We're connected." And so, and I mean, she goes into greater detail. It's much more robust and granular than that. But the gist of it is, I watched my dad dap up my brothers and my brothers with their homeboys, and never knew that there was so much.
Most of them don't know
that part.
Yeah.
But when you think about the creativity in communication and how Black people have always made sure that we can stay connected.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I wanted to introduce that because I think the power of written word and that being a tool that we use for future generations. It's how we connect with, old generations. It's even how we expose the lies of the colonizer. It's how we expose the lies of the oppressor. I'm serious, because I was reading this article. And it was talking about someone finding Christopher Columbus's diary entries.
Mm-hmm.
And how he described indigenous people, how he described the Africans that were already here, how he described the Moors that were in Spain. Like, I'm just like, bruh. So the power of written word, that's what we're going to talk about now. Go ahead, Mel, jump in.
No, it is, I mean, outside of word of mouth, it is the only way of traction and keeping log of history. And so much of what we're seeing now, so many of these documentaries, these movies, these things that we are seeing now, we are only being exposed to now because of someone's writings, because of someone's journals, because of someone's notes, because of what they left. Because the difference between verbal storytelling and written storytelling is, if someone doesn't continue to say what you've said, eventually it'll die.
Yeah, come on. No, repeat. Repeat that. I think somebody missed it.
Somebody missed it?
For the replay.
So if someone doesn't continue to say the things that you've already said, eventually it's going to die. Somebody has to continue. It's like the game. What's that game? Telephone.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have to keep sharing the message in order because eventually you're going to be gone.
Yes.
And then the person you told is going to be gone. And so if at some point somebody stops telling that story, it dies.
Yep.
But having it in written form can last for generations and generations and generations to come without anyone having to say a word. It speaks for itself.
Right.
It is speaking. It is your voice in infinite time.
Yep.
You know? And it's so powerful because, one, if you write it, it's your words. It's your voice.
Yep.
It reminds me of, we talked about the other day, and I don't know why I never remember the name of this book by Zora Neale Hurston.
Oh, yes, you were talking about. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it was like I always point back to that when I talk about the importance of authenticity in your writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was so adamant about keeping the
Mm-hmm.
voice of the
Mm-hmm.
people the book was about. He
Yep.
was like, I'm not changing their dialect. I'm not changing
Right.
how they said this.
Yep.
Because whoever reads this, however many years down the line, I
Mm-hmm.
want them to hear this
Yep.
person. I
Yep.
don't want them to hear your version of this person. I want them
Yeah.
to hear this person. And so if you ever read the book, and somebody help me with the name because I don't ever remember it, but if you ever read the book, when
Mm-hmm.
you're reading it,
Mm-hmm.
you can almost feel
Mm-hmm.
and see the person that's speaking
Wow.
because it's not it's so contextual. It's not, grammatically correct. It's not polished. It's not cleaned up. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
So you can feel and hear every emotion. You can hear every, twang. And it's like because we've been in around people from the south
Right.
and north, you can almost put together how they sounded.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When they were speaking. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the power of written word is if it's done correctly,
Mm-hmm.
it will evoke and spark every emotion that
Yep.
person had in that
Yep.
moment when
That
they wrote it.
sensory connection. Yes, exactly. Yep.
Which you can lose in oral communications because somebody else is telling the story for you.
Right.
So now
Yep.
they're telling it in their voice.
Yep.
But that power of the written word, it is infinite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about how many books and things that we are reading that are 400 and 500 years old.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Getting knowledge into things that we would never have any exposure to,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But yeah, them the written word, it's like the key to like Alice in Wonderland. It's like the little key that you open and opens a whole different world. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is
Yeah.
a whole nother world. Um, and it allows for differing perspectives of
Mm-hmm.
situations because two people writing about the same situations will have two very different narratives.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and so yeah, that
That's so like first of all, Zora is one of my faves. Okay. She's at like the top of the list. Like it's the Holy Spirit for writing the Bible, and then it's her. It's like
that
those are my favorite literary contributors. But
Mhm.
but you're so right. And what's really dope about Zora Neale Hurston is that she wasn't just a writer, but she was an anthropologist. And so
Mhm.
her goal in life and what she believed her purpose was collecting data and information specifically on Black people in the South. And I
Mhm.
was watching this documentary called The Great Migration, and they were really talking about her work and her diaries and her notes and her journals
Mhm.
about her trips back and forth to the
Mhm.
Carolinas, to Georgia, to Tennessee, um, to all the southern states that she went to collect the information for the book that you're referring to.
Mhm.
And I thought what was so dynamic, like you said, her commitment to preserving the authenticity and the true voice of the storyteller that she was recording. And it goes to show you how it's always been the objective of the oppressor to remove culture from everything that we do.
Mhm.
When you think about gentrification, all that is removing culture from our communities. Adding a Starbucks to a Black community, that doesn't make sense. Okay. We prefer Folgers out the can at the house. Like we don't, but my point is, when we see things like that, we know those are signs of gentrification. And to me, all gentrification means is the removal of culture. It's
Mhm.
literally taking everything out that makes us, that makes our communities ours, and then creating it to look like all the other spaces that white America already possesses and owns and inhabits. And
Yep.
so, like you said, I love that Zora is like, no, if we're gonna publish this, we're gonna publish it in its true form. And if it sounds ignorant to the white people, it doesn't matter because we didn't write it for them. And
Yeah.
that like that is just I so commend her for that. But this hour. Okay, so I wanted to share a couple of things that I studied on the power of written word. Specifically for Black women, writing became a tool for reclaiming agency and challenging dominant narratives. We need that now more than ever when it comes to these abortion laws and it comes to all these other ridiculous laws that tell women how they should be, that takes away the power over our agency. This is why we have to tell these stories. We need to record that in 2025, a woman who was a victim of rape can serve more time than her rapist if she has an abortion, which can result from the rape, right? But again, this ain't a political team. Okay. Black women writers have used, their work to explore themes of identity, race, gender, and social justice, which I freaking love. Like different journal entries from Angela Davis I was reading online. I was reading stories from Alice Walker and Ida B. Wells. Like when you sit and read, like Mel said, and you imagine what they felt, what they saw, what they like smelled, what they thought during the times that they were writing it, it really helps you to embody what their struggles were, and it makes you that much more grateful that we stand on their shoulders. So shout out to Toni Morrison, Zora Neale Hurston, Bell Hooks, Angela Davis, Ida B. Wells, Alice Walker. I could go on and on. The written word, the importance of written word, also it really just emphasizes like our need to have more Black newspapers and spreading information and telling the stories that mainstream media refuses to tell. Like they'll tell a snippet of something that happened, but they're not going to tell it the truth. They're not going to tell the truth.
They're not.
Let's just keep it real. They're not going to tell the truth. And then one of my favorite forms of storytelling that started on paper and then converted to oral storytelling is hip hop and rap, which is rhythm and poetry. For those of you who don't know what rap means, the reason I fell in love with hip hop. Look, me sound like brown sugar, but the reason I fell in love with hip hop was because it really was a platform to discuss the issues in our communities, to talk about injustices happening in our communities. And so when they began freestyling, obviously they didn't use a pen and a pad, but as the culture evolved and as the genre evolved, more and more people became hip hop writers and hip hop influencers. And we started to see things like The Source was created. And long before it was perverted by mainstream media, because it wasn't always about naked women and rap wars. There was a time where The Source and other hip hop influenced magazines were truly about the people. It was truly about the culture. Right. And so I really do miss those times and reading those articles. I remember I would save my little $3.50 to go get my Source magazine. Or what was the other one? The Hip Hop Weekly. I used to save for what was one of the original ones? We would get the best pictures of like Immature and Boyz II Men out of it. What was that?
The posters.
What was that one? If you remember, drop it in the comments. That was my magazine, honey. Oh, I saved my $3 for that one every single month. No, don't play. I had to have that magazine every month. And again, I loved it for the articles. I loved it to read what some of the artists were thinking. What were they working on? What were they doing? How did they feel about things that were happening in the world around us? And so, so I feel like that did play a huge part in our written word and being able to carry on those narratives. All right. So we are almost at time. We want to get this last one out the way, which is strategies for your written expression, for your self-expression. What are some things you can do, gems and gents, to leave your legacy on paper? How are you going to leave your stories? Maybe you don't want to be a publisher. Maybe you don't want to be a contributing author with the Diamond Writers, even though that would be awesome. Maybe you have no desire, for the things that you write to go beyond your children or your family, but it's still important that you do some form of legacy leaving, like leave your legacy on paper. So Mel, what are some ways that people can create strategies for self-expression, or what are some strategies people can leverage?
Journaling is major. Like just write. And people always feel like journaling has to be structured and has to be proper. Like it can just be a thought.
Yep.
It can be a poem, it can be a song, it can be, it can be something that you heard that you want to remember for that day. Like it it's whatever's happening for you in that moment.
Yeah.
And you don't have, some people feel like you have to just sit and journal at one time. Like you can journal multiple times throughout the day. You can just
Yep.
write little tidbits for that day. And
Yeah.
it just becomes a page of bullet points. You know what I'm saying? But I think journaling is amazing for self-expression.
Mhm.
I mean, finding whatever your creative niche is,
Mhm.
you know, art, music, dance,
Yep.
theater, like
Yep.
all of these are ways of self-expression. You know, the
Yeah.
way you wear your hair.
Come on. Come
Um,
on. Talk about that one.
yeah, the way you wear your hair. I mean,
Mhm.
I remember, and I can't quote it, but I remember the episode of Living Single
Mhm.
when they were trying to get Kyle to change his hair.
Yep. Yep.
And he made this statement. He was like, my hair is not an ornament. He's like, my hair is an
Mhm.
expression of who I am. It's an expression of where I
Yes.
come from. It's an
Yeah.
expression of my heritage and my culture. And he was like, and if you can accept that, then you don't accept me. And I'm like, how you wear, like, and it doesn't matter what it looks like, whether it's braids and weave or hip, whatever it is, it's who you are.
That's
It's an
right.
expression of yourself, you know.
Yep.
Um, I used to get, you know, I remember when I was heavy in corporate America, like my tattoos. But I was like, my tattoo, all of my tattoos have a meaning.
Mhm.
These are my self-expressions of different moments in my life. You know what I'm saying? So there's so many ways. I mean, it's called self-expression. So it's like
Yeah.
it's how you express yourself.
Yeah.
It's not defined by anybody else's ideas of what is acceptable or normal,
Mhm.
or comfortable. It's
Yeah.
whatever is the perfect example of you.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Whatever is the perfect representation of who you are. Listen, you've covered so many of the ones that I had prepared. I think I'll just add photography. That's a great form of expression, being able to show others how you see the world. So taking images of things that matter to you,
Mm-hmm.
and that tells a story. Um, as she said, you know, fashion and style, digital art and design. My niece, who's graduating high school this year, shout out to my niece Zariah, aka Ash. Her digital art is literally how she sees the world, and it is some of the most beautiful images I've ever seen. And her ability to transform art through and art design through the computer is like, this
Mm-hmm.
generation, they just different. Storytelling, of course, you know, regular oral tradition. You can use music. Mel already said dance, public speaking, and advocacy. That's another way to
Mm-hmm.
express yourself. If you are completely bothered by the way the world is going, talk about it.
Talk about
Start a
it.
podcast, like talk about it. Do a live stream. Do things to express yourself. It's okay.
Mhm.
Like, we listening. And then last thing, you know, I want to include, of course, you know, I'm not going to not include this, is your spiritual practices.
Yeah.
Your prayer life and your prayer ritual is a form of self-expression. Being able to tap in with the Lord and speak to the King of Glory as frequently as you desire. And that's what's so dope. He is always listening, always available. And that is probably my favorite avenue and conduit for self-expression, is being able to talk to God, because I don't have to show up no particular way. I don't have to pretend that I'm okay before I speak. I literally get to be raggedy, upset, angry, hurt, enraged, whatever. And the Lord will give me peace. And so those are just some of the things that we want to share in terms of you learning how to express yourself. If you don't want to write, sing. If you don't want to sing, do poetry. But yes, Taisha, thank you. It was right on magazine. Yes, it was.
There
Thank
you
you.
go.
However you choose to express yourself, we're just encouraging you to do so. We really, really want you to express yourself. All right. So we are
Express
at the hour.
yourself.
Express
Gotta be you and
you and only
only
you.
you.
Hey, go ahead. We've reached the top of the hour. We will just be a few more minutes. We're going to drop a gem and then get out of your way. We appreciate you hanging on with us tonight, and apologize again for the technical issues in the beginning that disrupted the show. But go ahead, Mel. What's your gem?
Um, what's my gem for today? I think my gem for today is be honest with yourself about the capacity that you have for whatever situation you are stepping into.
Mm,
Um,
that's good.
Oftentimes we try to pour a 2-liter gallon of soda into a 12-ounce bottle
Mm-hmm.
and wonder why we miss so many big things.
Mm.
You don't have the capacity for it. And it's okay to not. Fill up what you can fill up and save room for another time. It's okay.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. Snaps. My gym tonight is very personal. It's from personal experience. The Lord has been constantly reminding me that He is going to restore my authenticity. And I've shared this so many times because I'm just so excited to be reintroduced to my original self, right? The original version of me before code switching, before being tainted by the views and opinions of others, before divorce, before all the things that I've experienced that have pulled me away from myself. And so, my gem for you tonight is to reclaim your cultural identity, reclaim who you truly are. I am a loud Afro Latina from New York. And for a long time, I tried to hide it. I apologized for it. And I didn't realize how much I was destroying the essence of who I am. I was destroying what makes me me by trying to be someone else. And so reclaim your identity so that you can truly express yourself, because expressing who you think people want you to be is not true self expression. So that is my gem for you. Return to authenticity. Ask the Lord to help you and return to your true self and just enjoy her or him. Okay. And so listen, that's literally all we have. We have prayer tomorrow morning. Mel has added the link. So if you are interested in joining us, 6 a.m. is early. I know, ain't nobody up but us and the
And
Mexicans.
and,
But
and Jesus.
listen, and
And
Jesus. But
Jesus.
it is a good time in the Lord. It is a great safe space for you to share, to cry, to request all the things that you want to do, and to connect with like-minded women who love God and who are on their journey of wholeness. So join us 6 a.m. You can get the links by visiting diamondwriters.com. We also have our new book is coming out. Look what I got. Look, I have the proofs, y'all. Look, I got the proof that these books are done. Do y'all see these beauties? Can y'all see? This is the paperback. This is the hardcover. I can't show you the ebook, but listen, we've done the work. Okay, we have done the work. We have finished the project. She is absolutely gorgeous. She is amazing. Look how thick she is, y'all. Okay,
We was
that's a
right.
book.
We was right.
Okay, that's a book. We left it all on the pages. And so
Mhm.
make sure that you tune in on May 4th for our live virtual book release, and then get your copy on the 29th, April 29th. This
Yes.
beautiful, loud, New York inspired book drops. on
Have the
April
audacity to get the book.
29th.
Okay.
Exactly.
Have
Make
the
sure that
audacity.
you get that on the 29th. Am I missing any announcements, Mel?
No, I don't think so. Culture and Couture is next week,
Yay!
Saturday, March 29th, where we
Yes,
will be
yes.
honoring none other than our Queen Pendant Mystery with the Empowerment Award, along with 4 other amazing women who have
Yes.
contributed to the community. We'll be raising money for the Shalom Villa orphanage in Haiti. And so if you are in
Haiti.
the South Florida area, what did you say?
I said hi, Haiti.
Haiti.
That's how my family
Yes.
say it. Hi, Haiti. Yeah.
So if you are in the South Florida area or you know someone in the South Florida area, tell them to get a
Yeah.
ticket. They can get it at www.lavie music.com and someone come out and support. And if you can't come, donate.
Yes.
Make a donation. Make a donation to our cause. Help us get this money to these amazing kids. And let them know that people do care about them and want to support them.
Yes.
So yeah, support us. Love us.
That's
Be a
amazing.
part.
And thank you. Thank you again for the honor. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to be in Florida next weekend. I'm super excited. Last thing I did want to share, it's been on my heart, and I keep forgetting every week until this moment. It's important to us that you are all here. We really appreciate your support, and we want to hear from you. What are some topics and what are some subject matter you would like us to discuss? Now, one thing I will say, we do not do trends. We do not do celebrity gossip. We are not invested in those types of things. All that we discuss is our effort to enlighten, educate, and empower you. So, any subjects that fall within that, we would love to hear what you want to hear. Do you want to see more guests? Do you want to see more men contribute? We will make that happen because your continual support of us is important to us. And so we want to make sure that if you're coming back for the things that you desire and that you're interested in. But just know, like I said, if it's anything worldly, there's enough podcasts doing that.
Yeah.
We are going to do the things that feed you spiritually. And we don't need a pulpit to do it. We can do it from right here on these mics. And so we hope that you will engage with us. Drop it in the comments. If you're catching the replay, drop it in the comments. We do come back and look at those, or you can email them to us at info@diamondwriters.com. We would absolutely love to know what's on your heart and what you would like to hear from us. And until next time, y'all know what to do. Y'all continue to hustle and shine. Good night, everybody. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go.